It's time for the Raiders to get back to work as another phase of OTAs begins today. That plus more on Monday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for Monday, May 19th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you. If you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page, you know we appreciate both. The show continues to grow each and every day because of your consistent support. And, of course, on the YouTube page, because of the job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good. And we appreciate that. And it's not easy to look good or sound good. As a matter of fact, my man Nash from H-Town, he let me know on Friday on my radio show. He called in. He was like, hey, man, I saw the YouTube page. Saw the podcast this morning. It was great, but man, you're looking rough. You got to get to the barbershop. So he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Ari could work his magic, but he can only do so much. So we're back, man. We're good now, right? It's Monday, so we'll look good till about Wednesday, and then all of a sudden we'll start getting back on the struggle bus. But no, shout you out, man. Really do appreciate anyone who checks out the YouTube page or the podcast, whether we're looking good or not. But Ari does a great job behind the scenes. You can check him out on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. As a matter of fact, coming up in segment number 3, calls, texts, a lot of great feedback that we've been receiving. We'll get that in as much in as possible coming up in segment number 3 as we close out the show. Segment number 2, I had a really good conversation late last week with Charles Davis from CBS Sports and NFL Network. And we were talking about a variety of different conversations, from the NFL in general to the NFL draft, and then just kind of jumped into what he thought his overall thoughts were on the Raiders draft with John Spytek and Pete Carroll together for the first time. And basically, he just went through a whole list of different guys. So about 7 out of the 11 drafted players by the Silver and Black. You're going to hear a breakdown in segment number 2 from Charles Davis, CBS Sports, NFL Network. Great stuff. CD is one of the best draft analysts in the business, and I think you'll really enjoy what he had to say. You'll hear that in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, just news and notes of the day. We'll just go ahead and jump right into it. I mentioned off top that the Raiders are getting back to work. OTAs, they continue today. They've been fast and furious going on so far this offseason, as you know, the Raiders have been trying to put together the best 90-man roster, and then they'll at some point whittle it down to the best 53-man roster, and they'll have the best practice squad, at least the best that they could put together. And so it gets started again today. They'll also have it on the 21st and the 22nd. And then they'll have another round May 27th, 29th, and 30th. June 2nd through 5th is another round. And then mandatory minicamp, the one that really matters, the one that everyone under contract has to be at, that is June 10th through 12th. So you're probably wondering, well, what are these different phases of OTAs? What are they? Well, they started out earlier this offseason. The phase 1 was real simple. It was the first 2 weeks of the program. Activities were limited to meetings, strength and conditioning, and just rehab. So that was it. So there was no basically coming outside, right? There was some rehab stuff going on, but there wasn't too much of, well, they're going to be out on the grass and they're going to be going through 7-on-7 or 11-on-11 or whatever the case may be. So phase 1, long gone. They've been done with that. They're on to phase 2. Consists of the next 3 weeks of the program. On-field workouts may include individual or group instruction and drills, as well as perfect play drills and plays with offensive players lining up across from offensive players and defensive players lining up across from defensive players, conducted at a walkthrough pace. No live contact or team offense versus team defense drills are permitted. And then it gets a little bit juicier. It gets stepped up a little bit, and this is close to where the Raiders are. Phase 3, which will consist of the next 4 weeks of the program. Teams may conduct a total of 10 days of organized team practice activities, or OTAs. No live contacts permitted, but 7-on-7, 9-on-7, and 11-on-11 drills are permitted. So that's what happens right before and right around mandatory minicamp. And then after that, boom, they break for the summer. And then when they come back, it's training camp and it's full throttle, right? What was it last year in Costa Mesa? I think we had 17 or 18 days that we were there. It was a very long time. This year, training camp's going to be at the Henderson facility. So that's good for not having to travel and not have to be away from home for as many days as I was. And again, that's, not me complaining. It just was a different scenario. It's almost like you're gone for a whole month, so it was different. It was fun because Costa Mesa was a lot cooler than Henderson, as you can imagine. But I think that the players are going to enjoy it as well, being able to be home. I think it's a good idea to have training camp away from home just so you can bond with your teammates and not, have any distractions of family and friends that aren't, football related. But at the same time, when you have a beautiful facility like the Raiders do at the Intermountain Health Performance Center, it's you might as well go ahead and take advantage of it and use it. So that's what they'll be doing at least this year. Training camp will be in Henderson, Nevada. Also on Saturday night, the Raiders had the Silver and Black Gala. It was at Allegiant Stadium, big fundraiser event. And I'll tell you, as much as I've been talking about the positive vibes that have been around the team, you want to talk about a positive vibe on Saturday night. It was a lot of fun. Mark Davis, Pete Carroll, John Spytek, Robbie Leonard, Patrick Graham, Charles Woodson, Eric Allen, Jim Plunkett. These are all just people that I ran into and was able to talk to. There were so many people that were in the building, but these are guys that I was able to talk to, like Mike Haynes, Marcus Allen, Greg Townsend was there. Max Crosby, saw him for a quick minute. Adam Butler, Jacorian Bennett. Rookie Dante Thornton, got a chance to holler at him real quick about the Tennessee offense and how it relates and translates to the NFL. And, he said for some guys that don't work real hard, it's harder to go from that Josh Heupel offense in Tennessee and translate to the NFL. But he said guys like me that are going to get after it and have the want to and know how to do more than just one thing will be just fine. So I said it to him when I asked him the question about the Tennessee offense. I said, with all due respect, right? Because I know that some people take it as a slight. It's not a slight. I just want to know from a player's point of view how that translates, because I've been very critical of the Tennessee offense and the Art Briles offense that was at Baylor, and I even brought that up. I was like, hey, I saw that Art Briles offense right in front of me, and he's like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Same thing. So you understand what it is, but if you're able to go in there, get in the book, and work really hard, then it's fine. You'll be able to translate it to the NFL. So that was pretty positive. A little interaction there with Dante Thornton. Jackson Powers Johnson was there, Daniel Carlson, Darnay Holmes, Armani Gaynor. You want to talk about a dude that was fired up, man. Gaynor couldn't get a smile off his face. He was so happy, and, we've seen those videos that of him working out on social media, and I talked to him about that, and I asked him about, how Coach Carroll has been and just what the environment and vibe has been. He said, man, it's real positive, real energetic. We're real fired up, and look, you're supposed to be fired up in May. Right? I mean, you're not supposed to be drugged down. You're not supposed to be tired. You're not supposed to be worn out. But, I mean, there's a lot of positivity. I've been talking about it for a while. A lot of really good momentum. The president, Sandra Douglas Morgan, had a chance to catch up with her for a few minutes. And, she even noted the positivity. She said, look, even in the building, there's a ton of positivity. And she, agreed with what we've been saying here on the show. Now it's got to translate onto the field. Hopefully it translates into wins. But she said everything that has been going on with the new ownership, new coaching staff, new GM, new people that they've been bringing in, lots of positivity. They feel that positive energy in the building. So, again, I mean, it's hard for me to bring little individual conversations that I may have had for a minute or two, at a big event that was at Allegiant Stadium. But just so you know, all these different people that I was talking to definitely have that positive vibe around them when it comes to the Silver and Black. Oz the Mentalist, Oz Perlman, he performed. I still don't know how that dude does what he does, but he seems to amaze people all the time. Stevie Wonder closed out the night, so that was fantastic as well. But the main thing was it was a big fundraiser event. They raised a ton of funds, and it's funny, they had like a live auction going, so they gave us our paddles. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll go ahead and put my paddle up. Here it is right here. It's the first time I put my paddle up at all. They were doing big money. I mean, man, let me tell you, they were doing some big money. I was like, I'm not even picking up the paddle. I didn't even want to scratch my face while they were doing these live auctions, just because I didn't want them to mistake that I was trying to bid on something. This dude was going so fast. 20,000 here, 20,000, 20,000. I see 25,000, 25,000, 25,000. Back to 20,000. 25,000, 25,000, 30,000. There's 30,000 over there. Oh, in the back. Oh, I can't see. I was just like, oh my gosh. Let me keep my feet under my arms and keep them under my legs and I don't want my hands nowhere that can be seen, because I don't want him. I knew that I was in the wrong building at that time. Like, there's certain things I'm built for, other things I'm not. Bidding all kind of big money on dinner with Charles Woodson and Tom Brady and Mark Davis. And, there was a book that Mark Davis actually did $1 million donation, but that's what the bidding started at. And I was like, oh no, my brother, that'll take me 5 lifetimes to pay that off. I'm good. So, it was great. They raised a ton of money. They were doing mental health for children and children's hospitals and trying to get a children's hospital built in the area. And there's just a lot of really good stuff that they were working on that is a positive thing for the Raiders to be very active in the community. But man, oh man, I'll tell you, like I said, I'm putting this paddle up one more time. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. It's only now the second time I put that paddle up because they can't charge me for nothing now. I was like, I'm not doing that. I actually saw another local media member that was at the event, Case. He's a really good dude. And he had his paddle in. And he said, oh, yeah, I'm putting my credit card in right now. I said, for what? He said, for the live auction. I was like, oh, you're brave, man. I'm not doing that. I don't want them to have my information. What if you accidentally put your paddle up? He's like, oh, no, I was like, oh, no. Oh, no, but I don't think he thought that they were going to have that live auction at that kind of money, man. They were talking some big dinero, and your boy was not part of it. So, but it was a lot of fun. So hats off to the Raiders. It's the second annual one. I didn't get to go last year, but got the invite this year. It was pretty cool just to be there and, have a fun night out. It's a little bit different on a Saturday night. So there you go. That's the latest and the greatest when it comes to positive momentum and positive conversation when it comes to the Silver and Black at the Silver and Black Gala. That was Saturday night at Allegiant Stadium. Coming up in segment number 2, you want to talk about some positivity. Ever since the Raiders had their draft and completed their draft class, it really feels like there's a lot of positive momentum around those players that they selected and how they can help this team move forward. My guy, Charles Davis from CBS Sports and NFL Network, broke down 7 out of the 11 guys late last week on my radio show. So you'll hear that breakdown. You'll hear it next on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Before I get to that, though, I do want to tell you about one of the great sponsors here on the show, and that is Skylight Calendar. Skylight Calendar is here to bring clarity to the chaos and help families stay organized without stress. You can say goodbye to sticky notes, scribble plans on the fridge, and overlapping calendar invites. This sleek digital display syncs with your existing calendars. That's Google, Apple, Outlook, and more, making it simple to track appointments, practices, dinners, and reminders all in one easy-to-see place. So you could eliminate the I don't knows, the excuse that your family gives you when they don't show up to something. Oh, I didn't know about it. It was right there. You should have got it, right? You didn't have to worry about, as I mentioned before, all the sticky notes, all the written messages that could be lost in the sauce or even erased on accident, whatever the case may be. It's simple. Plus, you can see your whole week clearly on a 15-inch HD screen. It helps you stay focused and very much less overwhelmed. So what do you have to do to get involved in this? Right now, Skylight is offering all listeners of the Locked On Raiders podcast $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/NFL. That's skylightcal.com/NFL for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. skylightcal.com/NFL. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to get into a conversation that I was having with Charles Davis from CBS Sports and NFL Network. He's one of the best draft analysts in the business. So all the time leading up to the draft, usually try to have him on my radio show a couple times. And then I saw him this past year in Green Bay as well when we were at Lambeau Field the day before the draft. Was able to catch up with him for a few minutes, just talking about some of the draft prospects, what direction he thinks the draft was going to go. Obviously, some of the guys that are on the radar for the Raiders and more. But being able to catch up with him afterwards was fantastic. So I had him on my radio show the other day for like 20 or 25 minutes. He was fantastic. It's just a great conversation, right? Talking all things NFL storylines, talking about other draft picks around the league. And then finally, I just got to the point where I was asking, okay, well, John Spytek, Pete Carroll, they came together for the first time as a GM and head coach duo. How do you think their overall draft went? And then that's when Charles went in a whole nother direction where he was just like, all right, well, hit me with the players so I could talk about them. I didn't think he was going to go there. I thought he was just going to give me an overall, I thought they did well. I thought they navigated through the draft. But my man is attention to detail oriented. He's fantastic, and he broke down. He just asked me, hey, hit me with some names, Q, and I'll let you know. So 7 out of 11 guys: Genty, Jack Besh, Darian Porter, Caleb Rogers, Charles Grant, Cam Miller, and Tommy Millott. My man Charles Davis breaks it all down right here. So here we go with that conversation from late last week on my radio show, Unnecessary Roughness on Red Nation Radio 920. Check it out.
Yeah, I feel like a dummy here, but you're gonna have to help me out. Okay, can you tag team with me on this?
Gotcha.
I know Genty goes right 6,
yep,
which we thought was Central Casting, and then I'm not going to look. Tell me again. You heard the same rumor we all heard, right? No. Jacksonville now has their eyes on it.
Yep.
And it did not look like the Raiders were going to make a move to try and jump back ahead. They were like, okay, we'll just move on, take someone else. And then, of course, Jacksonville jumps up to 2, blah, 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 and you sit there and you get the guy that maybe you wanted originally. I can't say that was 100%. I thought they handled that well. Tell me who else came off the board for them, please. My brain is mush.
Jack Besh was the 2nd round pick, right? And that's a fantastic story, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's a great story. But here's the thing. Let's not get caught up with the story and lose the fact that the kid can play.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, because sometimes the stories override everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this story, it's hard to get past it. But Jack Besh was at LSU first, and he was on the same roster with a guy named Malik Neighbors, another guy named Brian Thomas Jr. And Jack Besh led that team in receptions that year, ahead of those two. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, once again, folks, yeah, story's off the charts, unbelievable, you get it, but he can flat out play. Not just, and I don't think he's just a combat catch guy. Like,
right.
He does that really well, but I think he's good in routes. He's going to block hard downfield. He's really good with the ball in his hands after the catch, hard to get on the ground. I like him a lot. Who's next?
Darian Porter, the cornerback out of Iowa State. They got him in the third round. Long guy, long, fast guy.
Pete Carroll special.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like a Pete Carroll corner. I mean, his arm length is longer than the rest of the torso and everything else you've got. Here's the thing to keep in mind. He was a wide receiver for most of his career. He didn't flip around till late and only started 7 ball games at the corner. So this is a total Pete Carroll special-looking corner project, etc. The good thing is he's only played 7 games at corner. If there are bad habits to break, it's not much, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like taking a golfer from day one and starting. So he'll learn to kick step pretty easily out there, but he definitely looks the part.
He does. He's got that size and that speed, and you can't teach that. You know that, right? You know that at that position in particular. He definitely can't do that. Again, Charles Davis hit with us here, Raider Nation Radio 920, Unnecessary Roughness. This is something that stood out to me about the Raiders draft. In the end of the third round, they went back-to-back, picked 98 and 99. Caleb Rogers, the guard out of Texas Tech. Charles Grant, the tackle out of William Mary. Back-to-back picks. They solidified that offensive line, at least added some depth there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like that a lot. And look, what John Spytek's doing there is, in consultation with Pete Carroll, but also think about John's background about what you're getting, right? You've got to when Tampa Bay won it all, remember that offensive line?
Mm-hmm.
Those were some players now, right? Those are big, massive, physical people who could maul you and move a little bit. This is what you're getting here. Grant is the one that I've got my eye on out of William and Mary, because the Colton Miller situation bears watching, right? You have to catch me up if I've missed anything on that. But this kid is athletic, lean, so I think they're probably going to want to put a little more bulk and ballast in him, and then off he goes. I said he looks like the Brickashaw Ferguson in his uniform, right down to the uniform number. I'm not saying he's the Brickashaw Ferguson as we go into it. The Brickashaw's first rounder all day long.
Yeah.
This kid's got a little more project in him, but has the athleticism, has the length, has all things you're looking for. I think they're going to enjoy putting him to work.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. And I know John Spytek really wanted to address the offensive line. That was something he talked about right after.
Nice job right there.
Yeah, he did. And again, those back-to-back picks, number 98 and number 99. Well, the last 2 guys I want to ask you about are guys from the FCS, and they came in the 6th round. Tommy Millott, a quarterback from Montana State. Mm-hmm. They announced him as a wide receiver. Then immediately they picked Cam Miller, the quarterback from North Dakota State, and they played against each other in the championship game. So they're both now part of the Raiders. What about those 2 guys that come from the FCS?
Yeah, let me start with Cam Miller. Okay. Even though he went after Millott. Look, you could watch Miller. You go back to the season opener, and we were all tuned in to see what was going to go on with Shedeur and what was going to happen with Travis Hunter. And Hunter made that incredible catch at the goal line where he reached back behind the defensive back to snatch the ball and finally get them going in the right direction. Because remember, North Dakota State played them off their feet for a long time before Colorado seized control of the ball game. And Cam Miller is the type of player who would hang in there, be tough and sure with his reads and decisive. When it was time to go, he would take off and run with the football. I don't think he's a flat-out sprinter type of a quarterback. I think he's very smart when he decides to go, accurate with the football, delivers, etc. So it'll be fun to see how he competes at the quarterback position. Millott, when you watched him play, you knew this kid was just pure athlete. All right? And I don't want to take away his quarterbacking skills. Turn on his tape and watch him. He was a really good player. But this is, let's face it, this is Julian Edelman. Mm-hmm. Again, right? Julian Edelman at Kent State, right? This kid can go. And I will tell you, I'd heard his name, but I really got somebody called me who was a Montana State guy and said, yo, dude, I'll bet you this, and this about my quarterback. This kid can do this, and this. I was like, yeah, I've heard about it. He goes, dude, you got to watch the tape. Okay. Watch the tape, called it back and said, I'm not betting you anything. This kid can play. So zero surprise that he went in the 6th. And let's face it, if he had played any receiver at all, he was going to go higher. Mm-hmm. This is a projection, but it's a good projection, and I like what they're going to do with it. But this is Julian Edelman all over again, and this kid's faster.
I love the fact that it was said that, he didn't have, John Spytek didn't bring him in for a visit. He didn't tip the cap at all that he was even paying attention to him. Even the special teams coordinator, Tom McMahon, said that on special teams, text exchanges that he's on, he didn't even tip even acknowledge that he even knew who this guy was, because those other special teams coordinators would know, oh, they're looking at him. Let's go ahead and pick. They had to. It was misdirection they kept throwing because they didn't want nobody to know about Tommy.
Q, it's unbelievable, isn't it? You would think in this day and age we wouldn't even have to worry about it. It's who doesn't know who these kids are, mm-hmm. right? But what they're saying is, we all know who they are, but the level of interest is what gets people's that's what piques what people do. I remember years and years ago I was at a pro day, and a running backs coach was there that I knew for a team and what have you. And I said, well, it was getting near time, Q. We were down near the end of the pro days and whatever. I said, well, you got to get back to the office, get some stuff done. He goes, yeah, I got to make a little detour. I got to go watch this running back at Richmond. And that's all he said to me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, running back at Richmond. So I went and did. I said, shoot, that's got to be Timmy Hightower.
Wow.
And that's how I got tipped off.
Yeah.
And guess what? He went to that school. He went to that team. That running back coach telling me that he went to that team. Now, I'm not Mr. Breaking News, right? I'm not the guy that you go to for the inside information. But he tipped me off, and I think kind of inadvertently. We were good friends and what have you. And so I was like, yo, I'm just going to tell you guys, there's a running back at Richmond no one knows about, and this kid can play. Everybody's staring at me like, Richmond, running back? What are you talking about? And sure enough, this kid comes out and has a very nice pro career. So we all want to keep it under wraps. But Q, I'll leave it at this. The most recent one for me, and it wasn't as recent as you might think, Jay Cutler going to Denver. Mm-hmm. When Cutler got drafted, they asked him, so what was it like talking to Shanahan? Did you visit? He said, I didn't hear at all from Denver.
Wow.
Shanahan had identified him, told everyone in the organization, you don't even breathe his name. You never even bring him up. You don't do anything. And they picked him at the 11th, number 11 overall. And he goes to Denver out of the gate. He did all of his homework, surreptitiously.
Yeah.
But the kid didn't even know that they were interested. He was in shock because he had never even heard from Denver, and they take him right then and there.
Just love the way that CD just right off the top of his head, right? Just, oh, okay, boom, yeah, that guy. Oh, yeah, hey, that's a good story, but great player. Just so much wealth of knowledge. And I really could have gone on and on. Once I realized that we were kind of going through every player, I was like, all right, well, let me just go ahead and pick a couple so I don't hold them longer than I already had. I mean, like I said, he was on my radio show for 25 minutes. It was a very long conversation, but he's a great dude. We have a really great relationship, have had a great relationship for quite a while. And I can appreciate being able to have someone on the show like that with that kind of wealth of knowledge that really just backs up what we've already been talking about, especially when it comes to the draft class. A lot of the drafted players, I was talking about that silver and black gala that was at Allegiant Stadium. A lot of the draft class was there. Ashton Genty wasn't there. Jack Besh wasn't there. They were in L.A. at the Panini, the rookie symposium, where they're doing all the little activities there in L.A. And so those guys weren't there. But for the most part, every other rookie, whether they were drafted, whether they were guys that were undrafted free agents, right, invites, whatever, as long as they had a contract and were with the Raiders, they were in the building on Saturday night. So that was kind of cool to see them all there in the mix as well. But hopefully you enjoyed that breakdown. I thought that was some really good stuff from CD. Charles Davis from NFL Network and CBS Sports does a fantastic job with both and did a fantastic job, in my opinion, with that breakdown of the players that the Raiders selected. Coming up in segment number 3, what's on your mind? Your calls and texts will close out the show, 707-654-4693. We hear from you next. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with Smitty in Orange County. He's calling to talk about players' rest days and the staff behind the scenes. Here he is, Smitty in Orange County.
Q, what's going on, man? Smitty here in Orange County. Love the show. Question for you. You may have mentioned this. I know we've all been talking about the schedule release. Raiders honestly have a pretty good schedule compared to prior years. But one thing that stands out, and you may have mentioned this already, but I saw a Sports Illustrated article that says they have the worst ranking for schedules as far as rest days goes, aka the players are going to be beat up and tired, right? I'm wondering, who is our training staff and our medical staff, kind of some unsung heroes of the team? You know, I mean, if you think about it, especially if we have the absolute worst schedule for rest days, then our training guys are almost as important as some of the guys on the coaching staff, whether it's the offensive coordinator, whoever. If the guys aren't there, it doesn't matter, right? So, I mean, I looked on the website. It says that you've got Chris Cortez, head athletic trainer, Scott Touche, director of sports medicine, and then AJ Niebel is your head strength and conditioning coach. Would just love to get your thoughts on if you've heard anything through the grapevine. Are these quality guys? Have they been with the Raiders a while? Can we trust them to help us get through the season? Would love to hear your thoughts, Q. Appreciate it, man.
Smitty, thanks so much for the call. I appreciate you. And I don't know the head trainer, but the head strength and conditioning coach is still AJ Niebel. He's been there for a while. Max swears by him. He says that he's a fantastic coach. So, he always says that AJ always has him right. So that's that extent that I know. Matt File is a guy that is the assistant strength and conditioning coach. I know that for a fact. And I don't know the exact role, but with Tom Brady being, part minority owner, one would tend to believe that Alex Guerrero, he's Tom Brady's guy, has something to say with what's going on as well. I don't think it's in an official capacity, but I think he has some suggestions on and some tips on things that they can do, different tricks or different, exercises that they can be doing, just a little bit of his TB12 method that he's working. So again, it's not, I don't believe in official capacity. I don't even know exactly what it kind of insists of. But I know there's been some around the organization that have said, Alex Guerrero has been around because he's Tom Brady's guy. So, take that for what it's worth. Not saying he's running anything by any means of the imagination. So please don't take that from that. I just know that there's some capacity, at least, like I said, if nothing else, more than suggestions, something like that going on from Alex Guerrero as well. So as far as the rest, I mean, just looking at the schedule as we've broken it down many times, I don't feel like the rest is going to be bad, especially in the stretch that I was talking about right after the bye week. Feels like they should have plenty of good rest because they don't really have too many road trips. And even the road trip to LA is not really a road trip, right? The toughest game is going to be that Thursday night going to Denver, that quick turnaround, right? They have Jacksonville at home, and then 4 days later, they're going to Denver for that Thursday night football game, and that's just going to be tough on the body, obviously. But outside of that, there's a lot at home there. So I feel like it's a very manageable schedule. But thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from 60s Era Raider. Says, hey, Q, 60s Era Raider in 603 here. As an OG fan, having lived in Alameda in the 80s, I've had a silver and black mag delivered to my house here in New Hampshire since 1989, but it can't match the information that you and Ari and a few other podcasts provide. Thanks for all that you do. I wanted to know if you had a chance to see an interview with Pete Carroll on the Seattle Morning Radio Show on the YouTube podcast. It's really good. Those guys do a great job as well. You can really see how much they respect and genuinely appreciate Pete's presence and program. All parties involved are very professional and just old school decent. One more thing. A few weeks ago before the draft, I texted in to comment on the old Raider way, pound the rock, and pop a deep ball as well. Now they may have a possible deep threat in that new cat from Tennessee, Thornton. We'll have to see, but to quote Pete, I'm jacked and pumped for 2025. Living here in Patriot land, it's been hell the first 20 years in the new millennium. Time for the silver and black attack. Thanks for all that you do. That 60s Era Raider. Thanks for the text. Do appreciate you. Thanks for the compliments as well. And yeah, I did see that from Pete Carroll there with Brock Hewitt and company on that SeattleSports.com. A lot of really good stuff. He was talking about Tom Brady, the relationship, and the fact that he's not in the building very often, but at the same time, he's still a wealth of knowledge, and he's, like one phone call away. So there's a lot to take away from that. But Pete Carroll is just a genuine, excited, fired up dude. Even seeing him on Saturday night at the gala, just being able to talk to him for a few minutes. It's funny because he always referenced me as the guy that wants all the answers, right? Going back to the Friday before the draft, the week of the draft, when we sat down with John Spytek and him, and I just asked him about the quarterback position, and He's like, man, Q wants all the answers. So when I saw him on Saturday night, I was like, hey, coach, you going to give me the answers yet? And he looked around and he goes, man, this guy always wants all the answers. So, but he's just got that genuine upbeat energy, excitement, happy to be there, happy to, just use some of his knowledge and spend it on. I'm telling you, it's so funny when you think about Pete Carroll. And I know this is going away from your text, but when you think about Pete Carroll, I still remember coming on this show when we were talking about who's going to be the next head coach. And I remember saying, who do you want, Pete Carroll? And I kind of shrugged my shoulders like, whatever, because Vinny Bonsignore brought up Pete Carroll. And I was like, I don't know, man. It's just, it is what it is. Pete was great in Seattle, but, is he going to be able to get that juice and provide that juice again for another organization? I'm telling you what, he very easily, and obviously time will tell, we'll see how it all plays out. Out of all the new coaches that got hired this offseason, this coaching cycle, he might end up being the best one out of all of them. Ben Johnson is the hotshot name that was hired in Chicago, but he has no track record of being a head coach. He hasn't been there, done that. So we don't know that he's going to be really good in Chicago. We'll see, right? Mike Vrabel, who the Raiders lead off with against the Patriots, we knew what he did in Tennessee. Can he get that thing turned around in New England? I think he's a really good coach, but if it was Mike Vrabel or Pete Carroll, I think I'd take Pete Carroll, right? Obviously, Carroll's with the Raiders. Aaron Glenn got hired with the Jets. He's a brand new head coach, so that's going to probably take some time to get things turned around. It just feels like that the Raiders and Pete Carroll have an opportunity to really make a splash pretty quickly. Liam Cohen is in Tampa Bay. Like, he went into hiding basically even to get that job. Remember, he was returning to Tampa Bay, in Jacksonville, I should say, sorry. He was returning to Tampa Bay to be the offensive coordinator, and then all of a sudden he went basically into hiding, and then all of a sudden next thing you know, he's popping up talking about Duval, even though you're saying it wrong, right? So he's in Jacksonville, and who says that they're going to get things turned around? I mean, there's a lot of unknown, and I feel like that the position that the Raiders are in with Pete Carroll and the fact that he knows exactly what he's doing, he knows what he's looking for, and John Spytek comes from Tampa Bay and has that familiarity even though he wasn't the GM there. It just seems like this is an opportunity to really, put a stamp on this organization and head it in the right direction. Now, I know that was a long-winded way to respond to your text that wasn't necessarily just about Pete Carroll, but sometimes I just can't help but think back to when I shrugged my shoulders, was like, no big deal. Sometimes it's easy to overthink these things, right? Sometimes the easiest answer is right there in front of you. And I don't think we do it on purpose. It's kind of like one of those natural reactions. You always want to like second guess yourself, or maybe that's too easy, or I don't know, but it seems like to me, it makes all the sense in the world. So thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Major Raider. He's a new booty caller. He's calling to talk about the Raiders defense and the safety position in particular. Here he is, Major Raider.
AQ, long-time listener, first-time caller, man. I guess what you call me is a new booty. This is Major Raider, and I want to, first of all, congratulate you on all your success, man. See where you've come from, where you are now, man. It's inspiring to the rest of us to keep doing what you're doing. So I know this is a short call, so I wanted to kind of harp on some of the themes you all have been talking about, but I wanted to give you something else to kind of chew on for a little bit, and that is the state of our safety room. If you look at Patrick Graham's defense, safety is key. Everything rotates through the safeties. Some people will say it's a pass rush, but if you look at the X's and O's, it's a safety. Trayvon Merrick was his ultimate chess piece. So now we've lost Trayvon Merrick in free agency, which is something we can debate later. Who's going to fill in that role? I know the Raiders really wanted Nick Emanwari. They tried to trade up for him. I know that may not be confirmed, but I think that's what they're trying to do, because they know that the safety, especially that free safety, is key to what all Patrick Graham needs to do. So my question to you, Q, is this. If we don't have Trayvon Merrick, we have Isaiah Palomau or Jeremy Chin in that Trayvon Merrick role, how is the defense going to work, and how can we make it successful? Love what you're doing, Q. Raider Nation, good days are ahead. I promise. Raiders!
Major Raider, thanks for the call. Appreciate you, and appreciate you being a new booty. Don't be the last one, though, right? Make sure you call in or text in and give us some more feedback, man. We do appreciate that. And, I think the plan is to ride it out with Palomau and Jeremy Chin, right? Palomau came on super strong towards the end of the season. You saw they gave him a 3-year contract extension. Chin is very versatile, and he's still young. Like, I know when people think of Jeremy Chin, they think he's some old safety. He's only 27, so he's still really young. And then they've got other youngsters on the roster as well. Remember Trey Taylor, from a year ago, the young man out of Air Force, Jonathan Sutherland from Penn State. He's been a couple years in the league. He's around. They've got other guys that they can roll out there. But I think the key is going to be Chin and Palomao. I think that's going to be the 1-2 punch that they're looking for. They gave Chin a multiple-year contract when they signed him as a free agent. So that's who I'd be looking at. Now, this is way too early to get into this because it's only May 19th. But if I had to tell you a safety that I would love for the Raiders to draft, I know it's sick. I know. The draft ain't for a whole year. I get it. They haven't snapped the ball one time in a game that mattered, and I'm already talking about the draft. But if there's one guy that I would point my finger at right now and say, yep, I'll take him any day of the week and twice on Sundays, it'd be Caleb Downs, the safety from Ohio State. He was at Alabama, and then when Nick Saban retired, he hit the transfer portal and went to Ohio State. He is phenomenal. I was on my radio show one day, and I was saying that dude is like Earl Thomas. He could be Pete Carroll's Earl Thomas right on the back end of that defense and just cleans up everybody's mistakes. My man Quick called in and was like, no, Q, you're doing him a disservice. He actually is more Sean Taylor-like. And I was like, whoa, hold on. Sean Taylor was that guy, right? Rest in peace, obviously, but Sean Taylor was that guy. But he said he's got more Sean Taylor tendencies than Earl Thomas. So obviously, if I'm talking about Earl and Quick is talking about Sean, then that means that we're talking about top-notch safeties. That's who Caleb Downs is. So if you don't watch Ohio State football, watch for Caleb Downs, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. Now, again, he'll probably be a top 5 pick. Who knows if he comes out in the draft? I'm sure he will, but again, it's only May, so I don't even know why I'm talking about the draft next year. But if there's a guy that's on the wish list, trust and believe Caleb Downs is that guy. Just got time for a couple more of this text from Jazzy Jeff in the Bay. So what's up, Q? Jazzy Jeff from the Bay Area. Question: what if the Raiders kept Josh Jacobs? Who would you have wanted the Raiders to draft with that number 6 overall pick? Jazzy Jeff in the Bay. Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one because Genty obviously would not be needed. Ooh, man. I'm thinking they would have either gone with a corner or gone with the offensive lineman. I think that would have been the direction, and I probably would have gone with Armand Membu just because I think that the corners that were going to be top early draft picks weren't really necessarily guys that needed to go at number 6, right? So I would have much rather go with probably Armand Membu at number 6 if they still had Josh Jacobs, but Genty, I mean, that's a home run waiting to happen, man. I'm excited about what he brings to the table. Can't wait to see him this year and multiple years to come. And so, they just reset the running back market. I mean, they very easily, when the Raiders go December 14th to go play the Eagles, we could honestly be watching the 2 best running backs in the league going up against each other, right? Think about it. We really could be. We could be looking at Saquon Barkley versus Genty and be like, who's going to be the best running back in the league? Who's going to win the rushing title? Who knows? Obviously, the whole season's got to play out, but that's what we could be looking at come December when they go to Philadelphia. So that's something I'm definitely looking forward to. But I probably would have ended up with Armand Membu at number 6 if the Raiders still had Josh Jacobs. But that's a good question. It really is. Thanks so much for the text. Appreciate you. We'll close things out with a call from Brother Dre in the A. He's calling to talk about tight end Michael Mayer and has some pretty strong statements, or at least concerns about Michael Mayer. Here he is, Brother Dre in the A.
What up, Q? It's Brother Dre in the A. I'm calling, and I hate that I'm actually making this call. I'm really concerned, Q. When it comes to one player in particular that I don't want to make it sound like I'm throwing the man under the bus, but here's the deal. Michael Mayer came in with a lot of expectations as a rookie. And I remember in training camp, Max Crosby basically gave him the business, and I think his confidence was shaken as a result of that. And then you had the whole thing last year. He missed time, et cetera. Okay. But last year, Brock Bowers comes in. I think that was like another blow to his confidence. The fact that another tight end was taken and as well as he did, I feel like that probably had an impact on him last year. I know he had some personal issues kind of off the field. And that aside, kind of going into this season, I really wonder where his confidence level is. I know that for every person there's a fight or flight sort of response that you have to challenging situations, and I'm really concerned. Does he have the fight? Will he take this year and do what he needs to do? I know he'll need to be used as a blocker, but I would like to see him in a 12 personnel type situation. with Brock Bowers and the two of them on the field at the same time, and really power running and just operating from a place of authority. But I am concerned about his confidence level and kind of where he is, and are we at the point now where we really do need to consider maybe moving on? Maybe he does need a new place, a new situation, a change of scenery to get his confidence back up. I don't know. I'm curious as to what what your thoughts are on it. Again, I don't want to put him out there like that, but I am concerned about kind of what we do going forward when it comes to Michael Mayer. Anyway, that's all I got for you, Q. Love what you do. Take care. Brother Dre out.
Dre, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And, yeah, Max gave him the business his rookie year. I remember being there at that practice, and he gave it to him, but he told him. He said, hey, man, that made me better. That made me understand exactly what the NFL is going to be like. And he seemed to have all the confidence in the world, but his rookie year, the problem was Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels didn't use him. He would throw him the ball early in the game. He would get a little bit of momentum. Then all of a sudden he'd go away from him the rest of the game. And Michael, to his credit, told us in OTAs last year, going into year 2 of his NFL career, that he was so frustrated and he was not happy coming to work. He was in a bad place because it wasn't fun, and he wasn't feeling like he was being utilized. So he was in a good place, and then his personal situation popped up. Whatever that was, still to this day don't know what it is, and it's not my business or anyone else's. It's between him and his family. But he seems like he's in a really good place. And but to your point, you could be in a really good place. You can have all the confidence in the world or not. Either way, it's year 3. His rookie contract is going to be up sooner rather than later. He's got to step up. Similar to Tyree Wilson, who's going into year 3, Michael Mayer's got to step up and show his worth. This is not the staff that drafted him. Matter of fact, the last staff is not the staff that drafted him. So he's already on staff number 3. He has got to show what his worth is, show how he can help this team win games, and show why he was traded up for in round number 2 to get selected just a couple seasons ago. Like he's got a lot of work to do. He's got a lot to prove. I think he has the ability to do it, but if his confidence is down, he better get his confidence up. Right? If he doesn't have his confidence, he better find it, right? Because it's going to have to show up in year 3. There's no doubt about that. It's all on him now. So we'll see what goes on. I like Michael Mayer, the talent. I like Michael Mayer, the person. He has to show up, though, and show out on that field. And, man, he could be a great 1-2 punch with Brock Bowers if they can figure it all out. So we'll see how it plays out. But I think it's a great statement and understanding because, again, it's a business, and we know that. So if you're not succeeding, and you're not producing, then your business will be over. And that's the harsh reality of what the NFL is. Brother Dre in the A, thanks for the call. Definitely appreciate you. That's all we got time for on today's show. Got a text from MC Raider in Montana. We'll get to that. Got a couple more calls that I'll get to as well. We'll have more news and notes. I do believe that we'll have some kind of availability at some point this week, I think, for the Raiders OTAs. If so, of course, we'll bring that to the table as well. We'll continue on with the great conversations that we have here on the daily on the Locked On Raiders podcast. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.